You walk into a store and the salesperson comes up to you and says, can I help you? You're going to say, just looking, right? But then when you're ready to try something on, are you going to go look for that salesperson that asked you if you needed help, or are you going to just find the person that has the keys to try something on? So it's this whole flawed form of communication. Nobody wants to be sold. So how do you communicate with your people? I am arguing that if you talk to your people once a quarter, which is 4 times a year, that you are actually being more of a salesman than if you try to talk to them once a month.
Welcome everyone to the first of 2 of July's webinars in real estate mastery and bridge the gap coaching. If you are new here, these are recorded and we will share them with you. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Usually we have time at the end to where we can actually field questions. If we do, we will absolutely do that. If not, we will have the recording. So make sure that you put your questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. And otherwise, this really is going to be a great conversation about honing and dialing in and improving your communication skills that will create a more effective follow-up. And I've gotten to know Frank, obviously. Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Flood alert. It's raining here. It's raining here in St. Louis. Okay, so let's get down to it. So Frank and I met as a result of Lab Code Agents. And Frank, you are a investor, you are a coach, you've been in the business a long ass time. I believe you're still affiliated and associated with Keller Williams. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I am the managing director, OP, essentially of the Keller Williams Bakersfield office. We have about a little over 120 agents there, and I run the Keller Williams in Los Angeles on the west side. We have about 200 agents there. I run a coaching business, and I literally just launched a new business that I haven't really told a lot of people about, which is probably the best business. If you own a brokerage, it's probably the best business you could probably ever want to work with.
Nice. Well, that sounds like we're going to have to touch on that before we finish today. Well, I love it. Let's get down into it. And the first thing I will mention is I know there are a handful of people on this call from Bakersfield. So I will make sure that you all get connected. And there's Daniel right there. There's one of them. Frank, Daniel, I'll introduce you guys offline later. But Frank, let's get down to it, man. So I kind of gave just a little short snip of who you are. Maybe give us a little deeper look into your career and what you led you to where you are today. And then let's get right into the goods, which is creating a better follow-up and improving our communication.
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I joined the military when I was out there. I was a combat military police officer for a number of years in the Army. And then I became a police officer in Las Vegas. And in 1999, I ended up moving to California with my then wife, and she wanted to raise a family, have kids, all that kind of fun stuff. And I tested for LAPD, and I actually walked through the testing. It was really super easy. And when it came down to it, I went to my wife and I said, I don't think I should be a cop in LA. I'm super aggressive. I'm super proactive. Like, I will shoot somebody. And I'm just like, that's not the mindset that I want to go into, like trying to raise a family. And like, I've had friends that are officers that have taken their own life and just bad things have happened. I'm thinking, I should probably go a different route. I ended up not going to the academy and going to get a degree in college, which was insane. And I got a computer job, which wasn't enough for me, and decided I wanted to be an investor. And so at the time, in around 2000, there was a company called foreclosures.com that, taught you how to do all that stuff. And so I paid them like $3,000. They taught me how to be an investor and all that kind of fun stuff. And that's when I was like, you know what, I think probably having a real estate license would be beneficial. And so I ended up getting licensed in 2003. That's when I joined Keller Williams. I was like the first agent to ever join Keller Williams in the San Fernando Valley. And I was rookie of the year. I ended up doing $165,000 in my first 6 months as a real estate agent. I ended up coaching the next rookie of the year who did $125,000 in their first 12 months. I had the Rookie of the Year for 2020 and the runner-up during the pandemic when I ran the Keller Williams Porter Ranch office. I just recently in 2023, I had the Rookie of the Year who did $189,000 in all of Los Angeles. He's a 20-something-year-old kid who just crushed it in his first year, and out of all the offices out here, he took the Rookie of the Year home. So I'm also the #1 sponsoring agent for agents in the Los Angeles area. Out of all agents in Keller Williams, I sponsor 63 individual agents to my downline. And I run my own real estate team with my wife. To be fair, my wife runs the real estate team. I'm kind of like the highly paid, very well-dressed assistant for my wife, but we have a real estate team. It does very well. We were #3 in the region. I think it was for Keller Williams. That's my story. I think I covered everything. 21 years in the business.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know that you and I have talked about this before, which is kind of how we found the topic for today, because there's a lot of things that you can talk about.
Yeah.
And you would think that the title for today's webinar almost seems basic, like 101 stuff, like we should know this stuff, but I feel like it's not. And also it's ever evolving, and especially in today's day and age where you now insert AI and you insert so much automation. And so let's get into what this really means as it relates to real estate professionals and, just improving communication skills that then will have a positive impact on our results.
Absolutely. Communication is, in my opinion, the #1 problem that we have in the real estate industry right now. I bring on probably 8 to 10 agents every month in my office, and I make myself available to coach them Mondays, Fridays, Wednesdays. I am always in the office and I'm always available. I try to tell my team, like, listen, I don't work 9 to 5. I wake up to go to sleep. Like, if you need something, if it's important to you, like, let me know it's important to me. And so I'm constantly trying to up my level of communication with my people. And what I found is that the gap between agents who are in the business and getting their business and growing their business, it just comes down to communication. And the level of communication, I think, has changed over time. I don't think, when I started in real estate in 2003, I think the coaching solution for communication was like, you have to talk to your database once a quarter. Have you heard that before?
Heard so many different variations. I couldn't even tell you where, it's all over the board.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh, you should talk to your database once a quarter. I think that is just fundamentally flawed. And the #1 thing that I tell people is, like, nobody wants to be sold. Like, you walk into a store and the salesperson comes up to you and says, can I help you? You're going to say, just looking, right? But then when you're ready to try something on, are you going to go look for that salesperson that asked you if you needed help, or are you going to just find the person that has the keys to try something on? So it's this whole flawed form of communication. Nobody wants to be sold. So how do you communicate with your people? I am arguing that if you talk to your people once a quarter, which is 4 times a year, that you are actually being more of a salesman than if you try to talk to them once a month. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to go back to the first thing that you said, which is I want to touch on that before we go into teaching or discussing strategy, which is, you feel like it is I forgot exactly how you said it, but it's the biggest flaw or the biggest weakness that our industry has. Yep. And is it because of a lack of, is it because of poor communication skills? Like, why do you say that?
So I think we've been misrepresented as like salespeople. And so everybody's like, oh, we're a salesperson. I run ads all the time, and I have people that help me with their ads. So we're going to optimize your ad and we're going to call it sales. I'm like, no. I don't. If I could eliminate the word sales from everything that has to do with real estate, it would make me so happy, because we don't sell. Our job as real estate agents is we manage relationships. And I think that's really the important part, is if we bring on agents and we explain to them that your job is to not sell a house, you're not selling nothing. You're not buying nothing. Your job is to manage a relationship with the people that you already know. And that I think is the key fundamental part, is that most people don't understand that, and they have this fear of talking to the people that they already know, because they, like the new agents that come on, they're scared to talk to people for the simple fact that they've never done anything. They've never sold anything. So they're not going to talk to the people that are close to them, because those people know they haven't done anything either. So they're not valid. They're more comfortable talking to people that they've never met, that they don't know, they can't like call them out or know that they haven't done anything, and they can kind of fake it till they make it. That's what I've seen in this industry. That's why, like, most people that come in to real estate, they want to talk to strangers. They don't want to talk to their friends and the family. And that's where all the low-hanging fruit is.
Mm-hmm. So as we get into the actual skill of communication, I think there's several different ways that you can take this, because I think the first thing that might come to someone's mind, I think it's one of two things. It's either the initial sale, so communicating to, either my sphere of influence or someone, like you said, that I don't even know. But then there's also the art of communicating to a past customer, or
Yep.
someone that's already done a transaction with us and staying in touch with them. And it's two different skill sets or two different strategies as it relates to communication. Am I missing anything besides those two that you would say needs to be right up there at that same level?
No, absolutely. I think you're absolutely correct. And I think at a core level, most agents, not new agents, but most agents don't understand what a sphere of influence is. And if you go into Lab Coat Agents Facebook group, you go into any Facebook group, you'll see agents like, oh, my sphere of influence doesn't work. My best friend just sold with somebody else. I need to go do something. Who wants to buy leads, buy leads, buy leads, buy? Everybody wants to buy leads, and they don't think their sphere of influence works, or they don't think they have a big enough sphere of influence. And that comes just from not understanding how a sphere of influence works and how your database works, because those two are just intrinsically connected. That makes your entire business.
So why don't you explain that then, from somebody who you feel like maybe somebody's thinking to themselves right now and hasn't asked the question? Okay, then explain that to me. Explain to me what I need to understand about my SOI.
Absolutely. So the key to a sphere of influence is that there's layers to it. It's not just your friends and family. If you look at the statistics from last year, 49% of all agents sold 0 to 1 house. That to me was frightening, because that's like over 750,000 agents. Now, if you do the math, your first sphere is your family. On average, people have between 5 and 10 people in their family, right? And then if
Now,
you
is this immediate family or extended family that includes cousins, aunts, and uncles?
all family. So this is all family. So on average, 5 to 10. Some people have large family. There's 20 people in it, so on and so forth. Like me, if you don't include my wife, like I have no family. Like my family's passed away. So like I have a very limited, and then I have my wife's family, and we're right at probably between 5 and 10. So on average, you're looking at 5 to 10 for your family. And then you look at the second sphere, which is your friends. Now, on average, it's the same number, 5 to 10. You take both those numbers, 10, that's 20. And what I've been able to figure out over time is that 6% of everybody you know is going to buy, sell, or refer business out in the next 12 months. So if you take 6% of 20, that comes out to 1.8. There's your 0 to 1 transaction right there. And that's where most people will get their business. They'll sell a couple of houses their first year, or nothing in their first year, and then they'll end up getting out of the business. So the number one thing is your family. Your family should be supporting you, and you should be talking to your family ad nauseum about everything that has to do with real estate. Because you can talk to your family that way. You can have a different conversation with your family. They should be the ones that are supporting you and trying to help you. Then you have your friends, your close friends. It's like a board of directors. Like with Keller Williams, we have an ALC, right? That's our board of directors. So you have a board of directors. You have your best friend, you have your close friends, you have your girl group, you have your guy group. Those are your people that are your first two, and that's mostly where people get their first few pieces of business from. Then there's another sphere outside of that, which is like your network. Your network could be anything you want it to be. I had an agent in here. He was very well connected into the West Hollywood LGBTQ community, and he had this huge group of people that he was just always around. I have another guy, he had a Bible study group.
Mhm.
And he comes to me and he says, I need to grow now keep in mind, this guy's been in the business for over 20 years. And he's like, my business is terrible. Things are not looking good. And I'm like, well, what do you do? He's like, well, I go to Bible study on Sunday. I'm like, well, what about those people? He's like, there's another realtor there. I go, dude, he's probably not talking to anybody either. I'm like, you got to talk to those people. Like, that's your network. That's your really strong group of people. Funny thing is 2 weeks ago, he calls me and he's like, hey, do you have a referral for a home inspector? I go, absolutely. He goes, it's for downtown LA, a $1.3 million all cash offer. He goes, you'll never believe where I got it from. I'd totally forgotten about the conversation. I go, no clue, dude. Where'd you get it? He goes, my Bible study group. And he goes, it literally happened within 2 weeks and I ended up getting a deal. So you
So let me stop you there.
yeah.
So I want to go deeper on that, because when you think about things like those spheres, that third level sphere, like family's one thing, close friends another, but the third level sphere, like your pickleball club, your golf club, your bridge club, as you mentioned, your Bible study, we all have them. They're there, maybe virtual in some cases. Post COVID, there's a lot more of that, but let's be specific about this Bible study case here and say, all right, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say, okay, but what is the line that we cross when we take our business into our personal lives, into that's probably the highest level, into our religious weekly, whatever you want to call it, right? Is that not crossing the line? How do you do it tastefully and have it result in business?
That's a great question, because I think that's what everybody's afraid of doing. And it's way easier than what everybody thinks. And I go back to the fact that it's a relationship. And if you're talking to people, you guys have this super strong bond in a Bible study group. You have something that people are like, this is some of their core beliefs. It's super important to them. So what I do is I give a script to my agents and my team, and I say, listen, this is what you do. You go develop a relationship with these people, and you don't talk about real estate. You call them, I go, hey, Jeff, it's really great to see you. Like, how's the family? How's the kids doing? Like, you follow your friends and family on Facebook. You follow people on Facebook. Say, oh, how's your dog doing? I saw the dog went to the vet. You talk to them about everything else but real estate. You ask them about their job. Reciprocity kicks in at some point, and they start asking you questions. People get curious. If you're curious about people, they're going to be curious back to you. You're making a friend. And I try to explain to people, like, not everybody will be your best friend, but you can be everybody else's best friend. You can be likable, know, like, and trust. Like, that's the core basics of how you do business in any business, not just real estate. If people know you, if people like you, people are going to trust you, they're going to do business with you. Mm-hmm. So you just work on building that with people, and that's talking to them about them. Don't talk about yourself. Like, then people are like, man, that dude's so egotistical. All he does is talk about himself. We all know that person, right? So you talk about them, you interested in them. If you're interested in them, if you are so interested in them, it'll become awkward enough to where they have to talk to you. Now, it's not like you're not going to get everybody. There's always going to be people that are not interested, that don't want friends, that are not, and that's fine. They're not going to use you anyway. So you just move on. You be kind to people and you make friends. Once you make friends, people want to do business with people they like. So you're going to create a connection with somebody. And if you talk to them enough and you're kind enough and you're nice enough and you develop a friendship, they're going to use you, because most real estate agents don't even do that. Mm-hmm. They want to go after the sale.
It's almost like being a real estate agent, there should be a prerequisite of testing of some sort, which this is obviously a joke because it's not possible probably, but where you qualify as a networker. Like and I have a follow-up to this because I'm going to use myself as an example, but like some of the best real estate agents I know are just really good at effectively going out into bars and events and it's like it's a job. And I know that with their spouse, they have to explain that, like, listen, I don't really want to go to this event, but I have to go to this event because I just need to mingle. And it's really, it's no different than saying I have to spend $1,000 a month to put my billboard up so people constantly see me. It's the same concept, except this is free, arguably more effective because it's more interpersonal conversations and those things like that. But what is your response to someone as we talk about this as networking becoming, and I don't think this is a news flash for anyone, but might be a good kick in the ass, because I do believe that it is arguably the most effective form of prospecting. And I don't think we look at it that way. I don't think we look at Bible study as prospecting. We don't look at our pickleball club as prospecting, but it needs to be in order for you to really truly kind of take your game to another level. But for somebody, I'm going to use myself as an example. I have become very introverted. Like I work from home post COVID. Now, my new career and all the media things that I do, I'm constantly on these calls. I'm constantly on stages doing events. I have to do that stuff for my business, which makes me introverted in my personal life. And I don't really want to go out and schmooze people. What is your response to, let's say you're coaching me and I'm like, Frank, I don't want to do it.
Okay. That's easy. I mean, do you want to sell houses? Do you want to make money?
Is there a better way? Is there another way?
Not really. I mean, I'm trying to give you the easiest path. I can give you the hardest path. Like I'll give you expired listings. You can go call them and see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Leads.
can
Door
you get
knocking.
business from expired listings? Absolutely. Is it probably the hardest hustle that's out there? Absolutely. Like there's a coach out there who I beloved, and I'm not going to say his name, but he's a really, good friend of mine. But he's just like, if you go into a city and you want to get business the fastest, you call expired leads. And I'm like, I don't know if I would do that, just because there's probably at least 10 to 100 agents doing that same thing. And most of them are not very good at it. They're not very good. Unless you're like a high level, like Mike Ferry, not even Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, like coach, it's expired leads they suck. It's really hard to do. My thing is, if I'm going into a city that I've never been into and I want to get business, I would go to meetup.com. I would find something that I'm interested in that has a lot of people there. And then I would go to as many meetings with meetup.com with things that I'm interested in, with as many people around me as possible, and talk to as many people as possible every day. And I can guarantee you within the first 30 days, I'd have a deal. Multiple deals. So yeah, if you want to have an easier way, a faster way, like if you need money right now and you're struggling in your life because you're financially strapped, your job is to talk to more people.
Yeah.
Your job is to expand your database and expand your sphere of influence. And you just have to get out of your comfort zone, because you're probably in your comfort zone right now. Get out of your comfort zone, because nothing good grows in a comfort zone, and go out and start talking to more people.
What's your opinion on BNIs and like Chamber of Commerce type networking groups?
I think they're fine. There's better ways, because everybody's there for one thing, for business. And there's probably another realtor there that's probably not very good, that is trying to extract business from people. You're going to get, unless you get a large one, you want to go someplace to where there's not necessarily other business people similar to your business. Like there's always a mortgage broker there. There's always a realtor there. There's always somebody in finance there. Like you want to go out to normal people, because that's where the real business is. Most of those people in the BNIs and stuff, they probably already know a realtor that they're working with, and it's a harder hustle. Like my thing is like, I'm getting older. I'm saying like, COVID like hit me. Like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to network with people, but yeah, you put me in a room, I will get business faster than anybody else there. If you say, listen, you need to come out of this room with a listing in 30 minutes, I'd be like, give me 29. And it's just like, you want to go to places where there's just normal people. And this is something I didn't even realize when I did it. When I first moved to California and I was getting my real estate license, I just got my real estate license. I was brand new. This is embarrassing, but I had a bowling league that I was a part of in Las Vegas, and we were pretty good. I had like a 180 average, and like my wife and I were trying to figure out things to do in Los Angeles. I'm like, well, let's go join a bowling league. So we joined a bowling league. I ended up getting 9 pieces of business from the bowling league, because there was like 20 teams of 4 people on each team, and they would rotate every week. So I would get to meet and talk to new people every week. And they ended up getting 9 pieces of business from that. And the funny thing is I wasn't even trying. I didn't even realize what I was doing, because I was so new. If I'd realized what I was doing, I would own that bowling league. I'd probably still be doing it. And I'd be like the bowling master real estate agent of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
But
sense. I mean, so as it relates to, because I want to get into the follow-up piece, because
yeah,
I do believe that's just as important, if not more important. But as we're talking about, this is, I would consider this obviously prospecting, right? It's seeking out new business, and it's almost like looking at prospecting through a different lens. Same thing I say about using how we use social media, which most people, it's a time suck. It's purely entertainment. They just scroll. They don't use it effectively. And I think one could argue the same with most humans as it relates to this sort of thing. You joined whatever it is group. I keep going back to pickleball because it's so popular right now, but golf's the same way. And there's a million other ones. But you joined it because you genuinely want to play pickleball and exercise. You joined golf because you genuinely enjoy golf. But now, like, reframing or looking at it through a different lens so that it becomes a twofold objective. And I think this gets a little challenging for some people because, especially people with busy lives, like speaking to somebody like me who has a family, has a young family, has kids, like the limited time that I get to go play golf or play pickleball or whatever it is we do, I'm there to do what I'm supposed to do when I get out. And you almost have to change the way you utilize that time so that you might have 30 minutes before to mingle in the clubhouse and then another hour afterwards to mingle outside inside the clubhouse and just get to know people, because the idea is to grow your network. And now, as we talk about growing said network, and let's go back to the Bible study, and let's just say you're having a conversation, you get to know somebody. At what point are we waiting for the reciprocity? Are we waiting for them to ask us questions? Or at what point do we potentially take information and now drop them into a database? Or at what point, or does that become too invasive and spammy?
it depends on the person. Like, I think the real estate industry tries to put everything into one little nice little box, and like, this is how you market to everybody. And I think that social media, if you are a high level practitioner of social media, you'll realize that everybody's different and everybody's not the same, and that you have to approach everybody differently. But you approach people with the fact that you're interested in them. Attention is the new gold. It's the new oil for the world right now. And if you give somebody attention, that's what literally everybody wants. Everybody wants attention. Give them the attention that they want and talk to them, and they're going to be naturally attracted to you. So at some point, like if I'm talking to somebody and you and I are talking and we're hitting it off and we're having a good conversation. I'm asking you questions about you. You're asking questions about me. I'd be like, hey, are you on Facebook? What's your platform? And you're like, oh, I'm on Instagram. Let me follow you on Instagram. And I think most agents want to hit the home run the first at bat. It's never going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to realize that you get an at bat, you're going to take a couple of swings, and that's to put them into your database. And when you have people in your database, and your database is social media, it is your CRM, it is all of these things, because you should be communicating with all of it very similar all the time, ad nauseum, constantly. And
Yeah.
so once people get to know you, it's know, like, trust. It's not trust, like, know. It's like, it takes time. Trust is different for everybody, right? Most people need to warm up to me. They don't just walk up to me and go, oh my God, Frank, you know what? La, 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 la. It's like, no. Like that guy, I don't know about him. I gotta, I need some time to get to know him. Everybody's going to be different. So it's just like, you have to figure out what's going to work with that person. You may have to go to Bible study 5 or 6 times to get somebody to warm up to you. But
Yeah.
if you show somebody attention, that's going to get them interested in you, and that's what you want. That's really the most important thing.
It's interesting that the way I wrote that down, because as I talk about attention, and I talk about that a lot, it's all about owning the attention of the consumer, of your sphere of influence, of your audience. But you're right. Attention's twofold. It's not just gaining attention, it's giving attention. And as it relates to networking, I would argue giving attention is the most important skill set that everybody needs to acquire or practice and be good at, and stop talking about yourself and just ask lots of questions, AKA give attention.
Yeah, so I'd say most people do social media wrong. They go on social media, they like a few things, they scroll. Like really, if you want somebody to work with you, why are you not liking on their stuff, commenting on their stuff, sharing their stuff? Not even in that order. You share their stuff. Like if you're really close with your friends or whatever, share their stuff, give them reviews on their stuff. Like start pushing out all of that attention to other people, because that's the way you get it back.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Anything else that you want to touch on this before we move over to communication as it relates to follow-up?
No, I think we covered a lot. I'm sure we'll probably circle back here once, we hit a few other things.
Okay. Well, let's dive in. Let's dive into to the whole communication as it relates to creating a better follow-up, following up in general. I mean, I think this is definitely a point of contention with most real estate agents. It's something that's talked about from day one, and it's something that most either don't do, they're not good at it, they're not consistent at it. You name it. Like there's all these different reasons why they don't work. So I don't know, give us kind of your shtick on this, and let's dig in.
So the number one thing is that I'm the king of getting business with limited amounts of capital. I think that in the real estate industry, you should be able to get business and you shouldn't have to spend a ton of money to do it, because it is about relationships. When agents are either in the business or just getting in the business, one thing that they need to educate themselves on is the industry knowledge and what's going on and how it's happening. With this whole NAR settlement, I'm trying to explain to my agents, because I run about a little over 300 agents, is that don't create a video about this NAR thing and put it online. The last thing you want is your client calling you and asking you questions. You should be calling your clients and seeing if they have any questions, because that's going to put you as the authority. Industry knowledge, I think, is probably key to the gap of communication, because a lot of agents are not talking to people because they just don't know what's going on in the market. They don't know what the interest rates are. They don't know what the inventory is. They don't know what the time on market is. There's all of these different things that if you just watch basic news that's happening out there, which I hate, but you have to watch it to know what the consumer is getting. So when they ask you a question, you're able to regurgitate it back to them, and then you immediately become an expert. I think that's really, really super important. That's going to close the communication gap. The big key with communication is that we don't talk to people enough, and we don't do it the way that is synergistically going to get you business. And the way I say that is that I had an agent with my office, and he goes, I have 10,000 email addresses. I'm like, he goes, I have 10,000 people in my database. I'm like, okay. My PC coach is like, well, you better start calling your people. He's like, I'm just going to email everybody. And I was like, that's called spam. And I try to explain to people, like, this is the idea. Like, we want to, as agents, take this huge net into the ocean, throw out this huge net. It lands in the ocean, it captures all this fish. What really happens is we take this huge net, we throw it out into the ocean, all the fish run, it hits the ocean, we pull it back, and there's nothing there. And if we shift our mindset from this mass communication to this individual, I'm going to take a stick and go hunt the biggest fish I can find and go stab it because I know where the fish are, like that's going to get you more business. And there's a process to follow up that is way more powerful than most what anybody's using right now. And the number one thing that I think that agents should do with follow-up is you need to call your people first. You have a personal phone call with people. You find out who they are. You go through the Ford conversation, their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. You find out, don't talk to them about real estate. That's the last thing you talk about. You make sure that they know you're in real estate, and you have a personal conversation with them to find out where they at in life. Because you and I know this, that, people don't just randomly wake up and go, I'm just going to sell the house today, right? It's usually a process because of a life event. Like you get married, you get divorced, you have a baby, you get a job, you lose a job, all of these different things. So your job is to figure out where are they at in life. And I talk to my agents and I say, this is what's going to happen when you do this. You're going to call them. They're going to be fine. They're not going to need you. They're not going to need to refer you or anything. But then if you don't talk to them for another 6 months to a year, why would they ever use you? So the key is you have this personal conversation. After you have that personal conversation, then you send the email. Now the email means something. Then you send the text message. Now the text message means something. And it's not a sales email. It's not a sales text message. It's like, hey, was really great talking to you today. I hope everything goes well with your daughter when she goes to college, or whatever it is. You reference that conversation. You put those notes into your database. So when you come back to that person, you know what you guys talked about, because it's going to resonate with that person when they realize you remember the conversation that they just had. Because shocker, they're not going to really care or probably remember, but when you do, that's going to mean something, and that's going to help with the know, like, trust. And then you put them. So what I do with my real estate team, and I give all this to all my agents, is that I put my people on a 65 touch program per year. Keller Williams started out with like a 33. I think it's 36 now. I think since COVID that you need to talk to your people way more than you even think that you should. That
That's
makes
more
sense?
than that's more than weekly.
Well, you talk to them once a month. You talk to them once a month. That's 12. After you talk to anybody, even if you see them in a grocery store, you send them a just a note. Just
So
follows up.
so wait, so talk equals phone call.
Talk equals phone call.
Okay.
And then you send a note after you talk to somebody, even if it's in the grocery store, that's another 12.
Okay.
And then you follow up with, now you can sprinkle in social media with not posts and comments. Social media, the best way to communicate with people in social media from your sphere of influence or people is private message.
DM.
I think that is probably if you could door knock and see a green light above a house to know that someone was home, that would be like gangster, right? But that's what Facebook is. Like, you could totally see who's on there and have a conversation with them. So you can do that with everybody once or twice a month. I have a newsletter that I send out twice a month to everybody. That's
Is it
24.
a email? Is that what that is?
It's an yes, email newsletter.
And you said how often?
Twice a month, every 2 weeks.
Okay, so 24 times. Okay.
Your home anniversary, which is once a year. Your birthday, which is once a year. Where are we at now? How many is that? I know you're counting.
Hold on. I'm writing these down. That's another 2. So it depends on the DM. You had 12 to 20. It could be 12 or 24. So we are at I'll just say 12 on that. Where I'll go in the middle. I'll say 18. 18 plus 24 plus 2. I'm at 68 actually.
Yeah. And then what I suggest is that you do your holiday card, and then you do a random holiday that is not normal. So to get personal with people actually increases your power with a relationship. So 4th of July, I try to explain to agents, I said, have you called your database and asked if anybody in their family has served in the military? And then if they answer and they go, yeah, my grandfather served in the military, you go, no way, can you tell me about it? And you sit there and you just let them talk about somebody that served in the military right before July 4th. That is some of the most powerful relationship building stuff that you can do. And then you get off the phone with them after that conversation, and then you send them something, thanking them for having a conversation with you. That just adds to that kind of relationship building. It's making it more personal. The pushback I get on this is that the time that it takes. And if you look at what people are doing now, they're wasting all of this time doing all of this mass media, all this mass stuff, and they're getting nothing. If you are patient and you take the time to get to know people and build that database with people who know, like, and trust you, you're going to create this powerful, insane database. If you have a database of 600 people in my area, that's a millionaire real estate agent database. If you know and have strong relationships with those people. It's very, 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 very easy to create a 65 plus touch program. And to be honest with you, it's more than 65 for us too, because like my wife right now is literally out driving around giving pop-by gifts, because she's like, I'm doing pop-by gifts this month. And she picks random 10 people and goes out and just drops things at their doorstep, not say, hey, I just dropped a gift off your house for literally no reason.
Does she knock when she does it, or just drop it off and then tells them she dropped it off?
She texts them, say, hey, I'm coming by to drop off a gift. I'll knock on the door. Let me know if you're home. And so like one person was like, we're in Vegas for a couple of days. If it's perishable, you probably want to get it and we can get it back on Saturday. Absolutely. I'll run out back. She ran out back, got it. And she texted them back. Now you literally just had 5 pieces of communication with somebody over one item that you were delivering. And you're giving something to somebody for free, and it has nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah. Well, what about the agent who says, hey, but what do I do? Because some of this is time consuming, right?
Absolutely.
And figuring out a cadence for all this stuff. And I talk about that a lot with social media, is figuring out the cadence for social. Like, it shouldn't be more than an hour a day prospecting tool. It needs to be a complementary tool. It's not going to be your end all for everything, but you got to figure out that cadence, and you got to get good at creating content so it doesn't take you 2 hours, what should take you 10 minutes, right? And but when somebody is, for example, they're having that busy month, they've got 5 deals working. And if you're in the mortgage side, you got 10 plus deals working, and you're doing your job to get through. And so a lot of this stuff tends to fall by the wayside. What is your response to somebody who says that? Because you and I both know, and I think everybody on here knows, that the key to a successful prospecting plan is consistency. You never waver. Yeah, sure, maybe you miss a week, but you make up for it the following week, and you just keep going. It never stops. And I think that's where most people fail in this arena. Why? And the first statement you made, it's probably the biggest thing that we fail at in our industry, probably a lot of industries. So what is your best piece of advice for somebody who says, man, when I get derailed, either it's by business, it's by personal shit, maybe somebody died, maybe I'm having marital issues, maybe I'm having children issues, maybe I'm having health issues. How do I overcome when those things happen?
Well, I think it's hard because there's a feedback loop, right? So there's a feedback loop to where I'm going to do something for you today, and I may not see a return on that for like 6 months to a year. And that's what business is about. And you have to become more of an entrepreneurial mindset type of person and realize you're going to put out a tremendous amount of effort now and not get an immediate result. And I think that most realtors that are in the business right now just don't have the skin for that. And that's why you see so many people failing, is that they try to do all this stuff in the beginning to get business, and they're doing 1,000 things at one time, mass email this, mass this, door knock, and they don't talk to their own people. And then they end up not getting any business instead of being more like a sniper. Should I have not said that word? Instead of being, but it's more like a sniper, being very pinpointed about and very specific and focused on what you're doing. Instead of trying to build 100 relationships at one time through an email or social media campaign or whatever, you start with one. And because the thing is that statistically, I've found that 6% of everybody is going to buy, sell, or refer business out. So the refer is really the most powerful one that everybody screws up. And I think, and I don't know if you know this statistic, like 90% of all people say that they will use their real estate agent again, but like 10% do.
Uh-huh.
And that's because we treat this business like we're a mercenary, not a missionary. I think Jeff Bezos is the one that, coined that phrase, mercenary versus missionary, is like, you have to be a missionary in your business to where you are in it for the long haul and you have a long-term value on what you are doing in your business. So I tell agents, like, listen, if you can dedicate 4 hours a day of consistency, you can hit 6 figures in your next 12 months. Like, it's not even a doubt in my mind. I've created like 6 rookies of the year. I did it myself. I went from having a 6-figure, $500,000 a year income, getting divorced, going into debt, 6 figures, and then pulling myself out of that in a 12-month period of time based on this. So like, I have so much proof that this is possible, but it's the consistency of work ethic, time over task, with no guarantee of return on investment immediately. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to be different. I had agents come into my office and I recruit them, and I'm like, listen, go tell everybody in your family, in your life, that you just joined Keller Williams and you're super excited. That's it. Don't ask them for business. I cannot tell you how many times agents come back with business just by doing that.
And by how? By a phone call, by a text message? How do you suggest somebody go about doing?
So personal conversation. So when I say call everybody you know, you're going to call everybody you know, but you and I both know that some people will not pick up the phone. Some people have a preferred way of communicating. And so once you learn that, you start communicating with that person that way. That's why this mass communication thing doesn't work. We just closed a deal on a $1.2 million deal with a 77-year-old seller who would not talk on the phone after we met with him. He would only text message. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so now that's his love language. Now we just have to cater to that. And so it's that. But the thing is that you communicate with somebody one time, don't make that the last time, and make it more frequent and aggressive. The frequency and aggressiveness is the key.
Yeah.
We all have that person in our database that we haven't talked to in like 5 years. Like there's a deal there somewhere.
Probably multiples.
Yeah.
And I want to add what you said too, and some of you have heard me say this before, but I believe that the next level of communication as we enter into a new era of human being, and by that I mean young millennials, Gen Z, and then of course the upcoming generation alphas that are coming behind them, which is having that conversation. Because our generation, Frank, you and I, anybody older, our age and older, it's just kind of by default. Like we use telephones, and then it's evolved into text message and email, and all three of those are all very acceptable. Now we've got a new generation of human. I use my daughters that are 20 and 24 as great examples, who their preferred form of communication is Snapchat. And this isn't a joke. This is reality. And this is almost a question you need to start asking your client when you're sitting down with them in the beginning of, what is your preferred form of communication? I asked that to my 24-year-old once, and I said, how would you react if someone who was a salesperson of some sort, I know we don't like that word, but whatever the product or service, and they asked you that question, and her response was, whatever they're selling, I'm buying. Like, that's it. That they just won me over with that simple question, because now you're meeting me where I choose to be. And I just appreciate that. There's no question on rate. There's no question on price. It's like, thank you. You're my people. And I think for those of us in the real estate industry, especially those of us that have a lot more gray hairs on our faces and heads than others, we need to embrace that, because those generations are going to legitimately choose their real estate agent or loan officer based upon that one simple question. And what is your take? I mean, I know you probably agree with that, but as we kind of wrap this thing up, what are kind of some of your parting thoughts and strategies? And I wanted to ask you too, in addition to that, which was, you mentioned 4 hours a day. If I'm an agent and I'm somebody on this call and I reach out to you afterwards and I'm like, Frank, you mentioned the 4 hours. Can you elaborate? What should those 4 hours consist of?
So the 4 hours are basically, you pull up your database, which everybody should be in. I just did this whole thing in my office to where I pulled up my office's roster and I found out how many people had people in the database. And it was like 75% of my office didn't have one contact in their database. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's like all your people, everybody in this thing right here should be in your database, someplace where you can take notes and record notes and put them on a follow-up plan. And so you call everybody and you basically, like, let's say you're just starting and you've never done this before. You start with A and work your way through it. Note the people you don't get in contact with, and you just call and you check in on them. You check in to see how they're doing. Make sure that they know that you're in real estate. This is probably, so I challenge people to go to Facebook groups and look at people that are like, oh, my best friend just listed with another agent, or this person just did this. We as agents and people misjudge relationships all the time. We assume the relationship is different than what it actually is. If you have a best friend and they did not list your house with you, that is not your best friend to him. He was not your best friend. You may have been his, but anybody that I have somebody that their mom just listed their house with another agent. He's been licensed for a year. I'm like, whoa, what's that about? We misjudge relationships all the time. That's why people get divorced. So it's like, you have to make sure that the people in your database are actually your people. You call them one by one and you get through as many as you possibly can, and you take notes. You take copious notes. You take notes as in, like, you make sure you have their name, their email, their phone number, their date of birth, their birthday. Send them birthday cards. Birthdays are super important to people. They want to be recognized. Facebook would not put that feature in there and make it super prominent if it wasn't important. Here's a hack. If you're calling your people, find out if they have pets. Pets or I have 2 dogs. If you know when my dog's birthday is, like, you are now a rock star in my life. My wife will love you. And people that are dog people are freakishly dog people. And if you send a birthday card to the freaking dog, you're going to go up another level.
Yeah.
Like, you get as much detailed information as you can, and then you do that for 4 hours a day. And then after you do that for the first day, because you never did it again, you follow up with the people you didn't get in touch with, and you do that for 2 hours. Then the next 2 hours, you do the follow-up to where you're writing thank you notes to the people that you just talked to, and you drop that in the mail. It's a touch. You want to overly touch people frequently and aggressively, and that's the key. And you just have to be patient with your process. If you do this, like, let's say you don't do anything else, you just do this, you just do the follow-up plan, you will get business. And there is a very good chance that, depending on what part of the country you're in, you will make 6 figures in the next 12 months. You just have to be frequent and aggressive with it, and make sure people know that you are in real estate and that you are really good at what you do.
I love that. And as you take it one step further, it gets me thinking, because as a social media guy, I'm big on calendars, the goofy holiday calendars. And it gets me thinking, like, the thing that we all should be doing with every single one of our clients, obviously, is getting to know them. So pets is an obvious one, but going back to things like, say somebody's an avid baker and they're always making bread because that's a hobby, or again, pickleball. There are national holidays for all of these stupid stuff, right? And so it's like, then you're taking these notes, you've got these notes about what their thing is. It's pets, it's sports, it's gardening. And then you go find the holiday, you put that in your calendar, you send them a goofy gift or card at that point every single year, in addition to the home anniversary, in addition to the birthday. But that's what normal people do. But you take it one step further by getting to know them a little bit better. And you're right. You really probably only need to manage a database of 50 to 100 people, because those people will become your raving referral partners, raving fans, because you simply sent them a sleeve of pickleballs on National Pickleball Day. That's it.
100%.
This isn't that hard. God, it pisses me off to have these conversations, to want to kick myself in the ass and be like, damn it, be better. Come on.
Well, it's easy to find out too. You go through your spirit, you go through your database, you find out who's on what platform, and then you go find out what's important to them. It's really super easy to find. There's people that are like mad LA Rams fan, mad Raiders fans. Like, it doesn't take a lot. We give the real estate agents give the crappiest closing gifts. We give like a bouquet of wine or a flowers, or it's like, no,
a knife, a Cutco knife.
That's great. I love knives. I love to cook steak. But at the end of the day, if you gave me a Los Angeles Chargers Super Bowl signed helmet, I'm projecting that will happen soon. If you give me a signed helmet of my favorite football team, of all the players, and you sent that to me, what's that going to cost? $600? I'm sorry, you just made $10,000, $20,000 in a commission. Give up $600. Mail them something that's going to mean something, that they're going to put on their mantle, and somebody's going to say, oh my God, that's amazing. Where did you get that? They're going to be like, my realtor gave it to me.
Yeah.
And now that person's going to be like, you're what?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. I love it, man. Let's wrap this thing up. I don't see any questions in the chat. If you have any, please throw them in there. Frank, it's been a great conversation. I think very obviously useful for everybody. What are your parting thoughts, first of all, and then second of all, what is the best way to connect with you?
You know what? I think the communication part is that we're not communicating with our people enough. And when I say people, I mean people in your database that are close to you, and all your vendors and everybody. Like, who does your lender use for a real estate agent? Your title person use? Like, all of those people, we kind of disregard our vendors, and creating a vendor list and getting to know your vendors is really going to be a game changer for a lot of people. I think that's really, really important. If you want to get a hold of me, my cell phone, I take cell phone calls all day, text messages all day. My number is 818-263-7265, or you can find me at one of 2 email addresses, frank@frankbernardo.com or frank@recruitingboss.com.
Where are you most active on social?
Probably Facebook. and Instagram. Although I've started a new business and I've been wavering on my social media activity. So I was
Sounds
just
like we need
talking.
to have a conversation offline. What, and by the way, go ahead and plug it. What is the new business?
So I created a bit. So I'm the #2 recruiter in the Los Angeles area, and I've always been #1 or 2 in whatever region that I've been for Keller Williams. I think I've recruited 147 agents in 1 year, and so what I decided to do is package that, put that into a program that I can basically give to people who own real estate offices. So if you own a real estate office and you want your business to exponentially grow, I figured out a way to get you 25 to 100 recruiting leads for real estate agents every month.
Wow, that sounds sexy. So if anybody on here is a leader of any sort or wants to grow a team, it sounds like it'd be interesting. I assume just connect with you on cell, email, social. Awesome. Frank, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for those of you that joined us live. And don't forget, the recording will be available probably in the next 24 hours. And we will make sure that we send out communication on that. If you don't receive it, feel free to reach out to us. Frank, always a pleasure. I love our time together, and I look forward to staying in touch, brother.
Thank you so much, man. You have a fantastic day. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Likewise. See you guys.